Failures and problems are a real thing, and you can't let them get you down. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you some of my failures and bad moments I've had over my years of traveling. Now, you may watch my channel and think, hey, things are pretty good for Adam, right? Right now I'm leaving the Best Western Hotel, who's a phenomenal sponsor of mine, traveling around the country on Harley Davidson motorcycles, riding to dealerships all across the country, seeing epic roads and adventures, sharing them with my friends, raising money for veterans. I've got endorsement deals with all kinds of global and local companies. I own an RV park in Eureka Springs, Arkansas called the Route 62 Motor Resort, and I have another one I'm an investor in Moyers, Oklahoma. It's called the K River Campground. Yes, I sold the campground with my house, but I'm still an investor. I'm still part of it. Still got my name and thumbprint all over it. And we are definitely still doing the Stubborn American Rally. The dates are right here. I sold it to a friend, and I'm helping them get started in their adventure just like mine. But the truth is, for every one of these successes, I've got plenty of fails. And in today's video, we're just crushing some miles across the country. We've got no dealership stops to raise funds. So if you can donate online, great. But I'm gonna share with you along the way some of my biggest mistakes, bad choices, and failures. Yesterday, we left the Phoenix area through Globe, rode up the Devil's Highway. Now we are in Eager, Arizona. The elevation's high and it's a little bit cold. You can see by all the people wearing jackets behind me. But as I grab this jacket off of my luggage, this is an example of one of my successes, right? This is my Sandoval luggage. It's made with Zero 3D, who's turned out to be an absolute wonderful partner for me. And it is a piece of luggage made for travel. It's got a tuck-away backpack. It's all waterproof, double-ended access. It's something I put to market just recently, but spent years trying to develop. But more about that later. The truth is, I absolutely love making motorcycle parts for riders, right? Stuff that, as tried and true, is really gonna make a difference for you out on the road. I just feel like sometimes parts get made by engineers and designers who aren't really putting true time in the saddle to test them. And there's just things that I think are outdated and that we could do better. And I like trying to develop those. But I have a lot of failures along the way. You may ask yourself, what makes me feel like I'm qualified to have an opinion on what works for motorcycles? Well, 11 years ago, I started what was called Scoot in America. I jumped on my Harley Davidson. I lived off my bike for years, traveling with my dog Scooter with a mission to hit every Harley Davidson dealership in America. That was 702 dealers at that time, which brought me to every city in America that had over, I don't know, 30,000 people, let's say. I was living 100% homeless, sleeping next to my bike, and didn't really have a whole lot of money to execute this trip. I was essentially flat broke, but I spent the time in the saddle and I rode every single day. And eventually people liked seeing where I was checking in and sleeping behind a gas station or just next to my bike on a cliff. And the truth be told, I think most people really enjoyed seeing my dog Scooter. But that's how I got my start. And when I started, I would try to raise money at these dealerships every day, but nobody knew who I was or what I was doing. And sometimes I would go a week and raise a couple $100. Now, today, if I can't raise $1,000 in one stop, I kind of get a little frustrated. But imagine when I started, weeks and only raise a couple $100, it was discouraging. But I didn't let that stop me, right? And I know some of you can probably relate. You all have challenges ahead of you that you're just passionate about. No matter the hurdles, you're not gonna let it stop you. Or maybe you're considering letting it stop you, and this video is your reminder not to do that. It's easy just to give up. I mean, it's easy to just say, you know what, this isn't working. This isn't gonna happen for me. It's not in the cards. The timing isn't right. There's a million excuses you can give yourself to give up when things aren't going right. For example, look at these handlebars right here. This is a collaboration handlebar project I did that I was super excited to put to the market. And I made some major mistakes, and it was a huge problem, and it has turned around to bite me right in the butt. And we'll talk more about that one later too. But then I've got other things like this seat, which is a complete success. I built this seat with Zero 3D. It's the Sandoval seat by Zero, and honestly, I've got a couple thousand miles on this thing now, and it's the most comfortable seat I've ever ridden. I don't say it just because it's mine. Of course, I wouldn't put my name on it if I didn't like it, right? So of course it's comfortable, but that is through trial and error, and that's through partnering with good companies and making good choices that we've come to this product. I spent about 3 years trying to develop a quality seat before I was actually able to get one to market, and it took many, many no's. I had so many companies I reached out to and said, hey, let's do this collaboration together, that told me no. No, they didn't want to work with me. No, they didn't want to work with the project. They didn't have the staff, they didn't have the power, or they just plain weren't interested in me. No, 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 no. Lots of no's. But I didn't let it stop me. I kept pushing forward. And eventually I found a company who saw the value in my riding experience and said, you know what, let's make a seat. My riding experience isn't just 11 years. On that first trip to all those dealerships, that was 88,000 miles. To date, that is the most miles anybody has ever put on a motorcycle in a single trip in one country, even breaking the Guinness Book World Record, which I would hold, but I'm horrible at paperwork. I got in a little accident, filed my paperwork wrong, and well, my name's not in the Guinness Book World Record for that record, but you could still find me in the book. All right, we got to get this convoy of bikes moving. I'll catch back up with you guys on more details at the next stop. So I share some of those successes with y'all, not because I want to brag or boast, but just because I want to show that through these struggles, good things can still happen. Just because the chips are down doesn't mean we're out. And that's where I came up with that tagline, we're not quitters, we are the Americans, because I have hit a lot of roadblocks across the years. One of the biggest challenges I had was back in 2016, or was it 17? I don't know, it starts to become a blur. See, and that's how struggles just kind of fade away. Like, I don't remember exactly what year it is off the top of my head. But whichever year it was, a Honda Civic was texting and driving, came into oncoming traffic and hit me on my motorcycle, splitting my leg wide open, leaving me and Scooter laying in the ditch, taking a helicopter flight to the hospital. It was devastating, right? It stopped me in the middle of a really important mission where I was trying to hit every dealership in America. And it left me laid up for quite some time where I couldn't ride. And then the fear of getting back on the bike, getting back out there, doing it was the next struggle. Like, I had to not let that fear beat me. I had to overcome that fear, throw my leg back over the bike and keep riding to finish my tour. And in fact, I did it before I could even walk entirely. I was still using crutches to get in and out of the dealerships at each fundraising stop. Let's take a step back further and talk about failed businesses. I've got quite a few of those too. My very first business, I was 18 years old. I lived in Pismo Beach, California, and I opened up a dog kennel. I went to school to learn to train dogs, the Canine Academy. We did advanced obedience, command attack, search and rescue, all that stuff. So I opened up a dog kennel and had a bit of success in it, but then after getting a little success, I thought life was made and I started taking more vacations than I was working, and the next thing you know, the business sunk. I also lived in Florida for a while, owned a bar and restaurant called Fuel Tap and Tavern. It was a motorcycle themed bar and restaurant attached to a Harley Davidson dealership in Fort Myers, Florida, and it was a huge failure. Like, huge failure. Turns out in Wisconsin, people that ride tend to drink a lot. In Florida, not quite as much, at least not as much as Wisconsin. So I ended up getting a lot of people going to Harley for service and coming over and having a Coke. Lost my butt. I also opened up a custom motorcycle shop. Another huge failure. Could not do it, but I knew I wanted to make money in motorcycles. So what did I do? After losing my shop, losing my bar in Florida, I went to work for a Harley Davidson dealership to try and learn the industry. I wanted to learn more about motorcycle industry and business because I wanted to make my living around motorcycles in some way. This much I knew. In fact, on this very convoy, we're going to be going and visiting at Bert's Black Widow, and there's still people there working that I worked with back when I used to do that. So it's going to be exciting to reconnect with my friend Ralph, who actually now goes by Uncle Daddy, and you can see him on social media. He's doing great. Check out a couple of his videos. This guy's hilarious.
Doesn't matter if you win by an inch. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Sit right back and we'll hear a tale of a faithful trip. Let me tell you why Uncle Daddy's into motorcycles. If I was a yachtsman, that's what it would look like.
And he's always been that way. I also spent 16 years in the fight business, mixed martial arts, 4 years competing, owned multiple gyms, ran promotions. Now keep in mind, back then, there was very few states where cage fighting was legal. So we figured out that you could hold the fights at casinos and it was sovereign nation, and we could get away with doing like legitimate fights that you could actually record and put on the internet without, you know, going to jail. I opened up several gyms across the Midwest, held fights in many casinos across the Midwest. And in order to do those in those casinos, they wanted these fights to be sanctioned. So I created sanctioning bodies where I licensed referees, judges, all of these things. And then I made the biggest mistake ever in the fight business. The state athletic commissions reached out to me and asked me if I'd help them write rules and regulations so they could make it legal. Sounded like a great idea. I didn't have the foresight to see this would be my demise. Once they made it legal, they licensed everybody and their brother to hold fights, and now every tap and tavern around the country was holding a fight. And, well, pretty hard to make business when the market's diluted that heavily. I literally sat in the Capitol, helped them write rules and regulations for state athletic departments in multiple states just to have those departments close my businesses. Actually, I got lucky, I sold them before it was too late. I did see the writing on the wall, but still, I lost a ton. Listen, you guys, those are a lot of old failures, but it's just to show that, you know, if you're going to try new things and you're going to be adventurous, you're going to have failures. Another one I did is, you know, of course, these martial arts days I talk about were before Dana White even owned the UFC, right? This is a long time, but we're talking about in the late 90s, okay? I actually patented the piece that connects the cage that they fight in and sold the patent to a company called Century Martial Arts, but I had a company kind of play the middleman on that, and there's a company you may have heard of called Tap Out. It was Tap Out Research and Development Centers, and they put me together with them. I was able to sell it and retain the manufacturing rights, so I manufactured them back to Century Martial Arts for like, I don't know, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, and it was like a $3 million contract. It was a big deal. I mean, a real big deal, but the guy who put the deal together had him get paid and then him pay me out. Well, he stopped paying me, and Century kept ordering parts, and I kept sending them, and lo and behold, before you knew it, I was sending more and not getting paid. And when I said, hey, Century, I'm not getting paid, they said, well, we're paying our bill, so you need to send the parts. And it ended up being a big old disaster, and I ended up losing that company. Just my ignorance, right? Maybe y'all can relate to this. I have a saying that says educations are expensive no matter where you get them. You can pay for them and go to college, or you can learn them by trial and error. Either way, you're going to pay to learn. It doesn't come free. And anybody that you see online who's successful in any way, chances are, in my experience, and I'm sure if you think about it, you'll agree, chances are if it wasn't just given to them and they had to earn it, there's probably a lot of failures along the way they never posted. And I didn't want to feed that misbelief that like things are just easy. So I just kind of want to share with all of y'all some of my failures. In fact, look at this cool old truck. I have really started to get excited about old vehicles, right? There's this one, and there's this guy right here too. And I don't know what it is, but something about these things have just spoke to me, and I wanted to start getting into them and sharing it on my channel. Well, the videos don't do real good. A lot of my audience doesn't follow the old car or the off-road material that I put out, but I love it, right? I like all things power sports. But the videos don't perform, and of course you guys know that affects me in a lot of ways, right? But I love it, and that's what this channel is about. It's about me sharing my passions with all of you, and you know, us having a connection and hopefully meeting up on the road someday, or maybe sharing unique places you should visit, or maybe help give you some ideas about your next purchase of a motorcycle or whatever else it may be. This channel's about us, so even though they don't perform well for me, I still do them because I love them. Just did a show called The Shakedown Show where we rolled old cars across America down Route 66. It was widely a failure. It was not a successful deal. I even got rear-ended by a truck, and we didn't have the turnout I wanted, but it didn't matter, right? It doesn't mean I'm never gonna do it again. In fact, I think I'm gonna put another one together next year. I'm just gonna adjust. I'm gonna allow it open to all motorcycles and all cars. And this way, more people are able to attend, because not everybody has one of these old girls. But that was a failure I had just this year, but I had a ton of fun. While we're talking about more currently and what I'm doing, let's look at this motorcycle, for example. I've got some great partners on here. I've got Carbon Visionaries making all this rad carbon all over the bike, right? Down here, the fender. I've got this D&D exhaust, this billet aluminum swing arm by Trask. Cool Trask intake. I got these floorboards by Zero 3D. Look at, here's a partnership deal I did. These are Adam Sandoval ASR mini boards, right? Just to give you more positions to put your feet, a nice rubber pad. I love those things. My Zero 3D Tech 10 spotlights. I'm working on developing the sissy bar and bringing it to market, all billet aluminum, right? The whole thing. But before I talk about that, let's talk about these bars, because that sissy bar I'm making is a result of my failure on these bars. I really got screwed over by these bars, right? And I'm not going to mention the company's name. It's not about bashing them. It's about talking about what I could have done better, okay? The reality is I got put in a position and one of my weak points was exposed. So I put these bars to market with a company. And again, I'm not going to say their name, but they're really cool. They're all adjustable. You can adjust them up and down, in and out. They're just a really nice performing handlebar. Quick disclaimer, while this story does end bad, there's a happy ending, because after riding them on a few long distance trips, there are some things I would like to tweak, and I'm gonna tweak them. I'm not gonna let this bad experience ruin my dreams of putting quality products to the market. So long story short, we put these things to the market, we sold a ton of them. I mean, a lot of them. And what happened is the company that was manufacturing them would go to back order. They couldn't keep up with the orders. At least that's what I thought. Turns out they would stop making the bar with my name on it, putting it in a back order status, but then they would remake the exact same bar, except leave my name off of it and renamed it the Workman. So now I would market this thing and push it out there, and people couldn't get mine because they were back ordered. And now there's another option for the customer to buy the exact same bar setup, just under a different name, and conveniently with my name excluded and me cut out of the deal financially. Really, truly just a shitty way to do business, and I got screwed over. There's no two ways about it. But here's where I made my mistake. I asked them to stop selling it and maybe make some revisions so it didn't look like I had the exact same bar as another brand that was out there. And they agreed, but continued to do it. So eventually I had to send them an email and say, listen, I am no longer partners of yours on this project. I'm ending it. There will never be another Sandoval bar collaboration with you. And here's where my big mistake came in. I didn't make sure that I own the design. So guess what? Today, you could still go buy my handlebar without my name on it, me getting completely cut out of the deal, even though I'm the one who brought it to the market. Crazy, right? Huge failure. Yes, I was screwed over, but I would have been protected if I hadn't made a mistake. But I don't let that stop me. You know what I said? All right, I think ergonomics are crucial to enjoying long distance on motorcycles. So I'm going to start my own billet line of parts that are designed around ergonomics. I'm going to redevelop these bars in a new way with even more adjustments than they have. And my first attempt at getting into the billet market was this sissy bar. This is my first project, and of course this one's, you know, just raw aluminum like those bars, but it will come anodized black. This is my first attempt. Once I get this thing to the market, once it's done, once it's final, which should be this week, then I'm moving on to my bars. I'm going to put out good quality ergonomic bar. Then I'm moving to adjustable floorboards, shift levers. I'm going to develop a line of products that is 100% around ergonomics, about getting you the best position, because let's face it, these bikes are all the same, but we are not. We have different measurements, we have different ailments, we have different injuries, we have different things we need out of these motorcycles to be comfortable, and you have to have some adjustment. So I'm taking a negative, a failure I had. Yes, there was a failure done to me too, without doubt, but I'm taking that negative, I'm turning it into a positive, and I'm gonna start a new project. And for them, I could blast them and say their name and go over it all, but you know what? Karma does its own thing. People end up writing their own stories, and I'm more focused on writing my story than I am theirs. Got everything you need today there? Renegade?
Breakfast for champions.
Breakfast for champions, a peach pie.
Yeah.
Did you warm it up?
I did.
Yeah, that's the way to go on those things. You didn't lose anything yet this morning?
Nope, gained some stuff.
What'd you get?
Oil and spark plugs.
All right, man. Well, now things are getting interesting. We went from 100+ days to cold, rainy days. We're just getting sprinkled on a little bit, but the storm is definitely around us, and I got a feeling we're getting pretty wet. Here's something really cool about the West. Petrified wood. It's actually stone. Like, there is absolutely no way I can even budge this thing. I couldn't tell you how much it weighs. Solid stone, but it used to be a tree standing up out here in the desert. Well, we ate a little Subway, waited out the rain. Skies are blue. Bikes are all piled underneath the cover. Everybody's pushing out. We're gonna get back to the road. Just worked out good for a lunch stop. I still think we might see some more rain before this trip's over, but we ain't gonna let it stop us. This time it just was convenient. So I'm hoping for the best. I did put some rain pants on, but I did not put my rain jacket on. I'm crossing my fingers we're gonna be dry to the next gas stop. And of course my luggage is 100% waterproof, so I don't have to worry about putting a rain fly over that. Like that one there, it kind of looks like a trash bag over your luggage. I don't have to deal with unstrapping, putting something over, then restrapping every time I'm concerned with rain. Yeah, we caught the storm. I'm putting a jacket on and some gloves because it's actually pretty chilly. As soon as I got back on the road, getting my gear on, immediately it started raining on me. And not just raining, but downpouring. At some points, it actually started turning to hail. And after a while of torrential downpours, The rain did break momentarily, but I will say I did have some substantial crosswinds as soon as the rain stopped. And I find when you throttle down in the wind, your bike actually gets a little bit more stable. So I pushed through it. No more did the wind start to die down and the rain and hail came back. Well, the storm has gotten me kind of sidetracked and I've lost track. I know we were talking about failures and how, you know, we all have them. I have them. I've struggled with them on this convoy with a few low fundraising days. Jesus, I'm losing my damn mind. Damn it, give it to me. I really am. I've lost my track. Dalton just came out with my gloves and jacket. Beside myself, I'm like trying to remember what I was talking about in this video, and I think I've just lost it all to you guys. I'm wet, but hopefully the road will be dry. I'll clear my head, and when I come back from the next run, I'll finish our conversation. I'll remember where we were. Back to the road again, and we did get about 5 or 10 more minutes of the rain before the clouds broke, and we had beautiful blue skies with big fluffy clouds off in the distance, and I knew that the rest of the ride in was gonna be a breeze. We pushed our last couple hours, and before you knew it, arrived in Tucumcari. You did it, Jay! You did it! You let us safe and sound. You too, Pamela! That was legitimately one of the, I'm not gonna say the worst, definitely not the worst, but one of the worst storms I have ever ridden in. Well, you did it.
I did.
What do you think?
Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was fun. It was touchy. It was the Great American Convoy.
Amen, that's exactly what it was. How long have you been riding?
Since the end of 22.
22, you started riding. And now you're on this beautiful ST doing the whole convoy?
Well, not the whole, but...
No?
No.
No, where'd you join?
We joined in El Paso, I think.
Okay, so close to the whole convoy.
Right.
Most of it.
Yep.
Well, you're doing great.
Thanks, Adam.
You were a little nervous though, weren't you?
A little bit.
She's doing really good. Well, this is a bonus. Look at this room. This is nice. And watch this. Right overlooking the pool, man. And it's a nice looking pool. This is gonna be the perfect room after a long day on the road. It was a long day. I don't say that too often, but it definitely was a long day. I hope some of you can relate to my video today, and when you look back, you can think of different struggles and problems that you've had that in the end turned out great. And don't forget that all this stuff you see online about how wonderful everything is for everybody, a lot of struggle goes into that. They're just not always so vulnerable to share it all. They just want everything to look perfect all the time, but life's not perfect, and I want you to know but my life certainly has not been perfect. Although, in this moment right now, it damn sure feels close. I'll see y'all on the ride tomorrow.